Rob Draper. Boo boys got last laugh as England fall flat in Hungary. When England played behind closed doors in Croatia in 2018, the stadium was so quiet that all you could hear was the full range of Jordan Henderson's impressively robust vocabulary, mainly directed at the referee and the opposition coach. These days behind closed doors means something a little different. Here you could hardly hear yourself think, for all the excited screams of the schoolchildren and insufferable vuvuzelas. Hungary, having found an obscure UEFA loophole that allows children in, 30,000 of them apparently, with 5,000 escorts. So it was that the volume was louder than it might have been if the full 67,215 were here. Just a reminder that this stadium ban was for homophobic and racist chanting during Euro 2020. In between that they picked up another stadium ban for the horrendous racist abuse England players suffered here last year, so they've become quite adept at working through the minutiae of the regulation. So it was that England were jeered on their warm-up quite good-naturedly before anthems were observed impeccably. And then England took the knee to express their solidarity as teammates because of the racial abuse they suffer around the world. And then came the distinct sound of boos and jeers, nothing like the din when England played here in September against a full adult crowd. But a show of disdain nonetheless. It wasn't universal. And it may have been from adult escorts rather than the kids themselves. But there it was. Give me the child and I will show you the adult. In the land of Viktor Orban, it seems there are some very happy to embrace that maxim when it comes to disdain for anti-racism. In Hungary, there is irritation that when England come to town, that they bring with them an evangelical sermon on anti-racism, when, to their eyes, English football, with its pitch invasions and own racism issues, has enough problems of its own to deal with before it can ascend the pulpit. So there is the sense that some are booing what they perceive as the arrogance of England to preaching down to them. Others presumably take issue with the fact that symbol of taking the knee was appropriated by the Marxist group in the USA, though it was originally used by NFL player Colin Kaepernick, a peaceful prayerful response to ongoing racial injustice, and is universally used. And yet how to explain that to Raheem Sterling and Jude Bellingham, who were abused here last year? Number equal game respect read the huge UEFA banner in the stands. That's pretty much the problem with football and its gestures. Great at hashtags, struggling to do anything that would bring any discernible change when players can be racially abused with near impunity. After that, it was difficult to appreciate the sheer joy of the majority of the crowd, though that should not really be the case when it was a minority who booed. They had plenty to cheer, this being one of England's end-of-season performances, which suggests the players need to be in Mauritius or Dubai. As can be imagined, the din when Dominic Soboslai converted the 64th minute penalty was extraordinary. High-pitched cheering really does pierce the eardrums. Reece James, who had just come on for the disappointing Trent Alexander-Arnold, found himself the wrong side of Zsolt Nagy and clumsily challenged. The award was soft, but no softer than Sterling's against Denmark in the Euro 2020 semi-final. It was chastening, but only what England deserved. As is often the case, their 3-4-3 formation looked stretched and bereft of shape. James Justin had a difficult debut, with Hungary's best player Loic Nago repeatedly getting outside, delivering superb crosses which his forwards declined to finish. Justin had to go off at halftime having picked up an injury in the first half, which had initially looked like it would finish his debut there and then. Jarrod Bowen did better, a wayward free kick aside, at least running at players with gusto and causing panic. And yet the focus shouldn't really be on the debutants but the coach, Gareth Southgate. There was little coherent about England here. Whatever they have been under Southgate, they have generally been structured and a team with a plan. Here, the wide-open spaces on the flanks were inviting areas to attack for Hungary as wing-backs Alexander-Arnold and James operated on the front foot. Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice found themselves outnumbered in midfield and never got a grip of the game. This was England's first defeat inside 90 minutes, allowing us to step aside the defeat to Italy on penalties since November 2020 when they lost to Belgium, a run of 23 games. England have been pretty good in that spell, if a little cautious at times in the Euro 2020 final. But here they were lucky it wasn't worse when Jordan Pickford dived to their rescue to deny Laszlo Kleinheisler when caught on the counter on 84 minutes. The ball fell to Andres Schaefer, the goal beckoned 6 yards out, but incredibly he skewed it over. Hungary looked energized and sharp while England were labored and dysfunctional, their shots on target rarely testing Peter Gulassi in the Hungarian goal. Conor Coady glanced a header wide, Harry Kane opted for a soft shot on goal rather than squaring for Jack Grealish who would surely have scored. But there was no concerted rally, no laying siege to the Hungarian goal. They looked like a team that need a break. It isn't a good look going into games against Germany and Italy next week. It's an even worse one when you consider the World Cup is 5 months away. Suffice to say, the school kids enjoyed it.